The plastic bench at Abbott Northwestern felt harder than anything I remembered from past visits. Walter Adams-me still had the hospital wristband on when Logan dropped a 20 into my palm like he was tipping a valet. He didn't explain. "I'm busy." "Figure it out," he said, eyes fixed somewhere past my shoulder. The words landed faster than the bill. Before a question formed, he was already heading toward the automatic doors, pace-sharp shoulders tightening as if he expected me to call him back. Nothing came out of my mouth. Something in my chest stalled. A man in a wheelchair a few feet away shifted slightly and spoke without looking at me. "If you stand that straight, he'll push even harder. Lean a bit. Make him think you're weaker than you are." His tone wasn't mocking, more like someone warning a stranger about a hole in the sidewalk. I turned toward him. "What are you talking about?" He tapped his phone. He reached for his phone, opened a message he'd recorded from earlier, then pushed it toward me. I overheard him sending this to someone near the entrance. The text glowed against the screen. "He doesn't have his phone now. Grab the rest of the medical papers and it's done." A chill moved up my arms sharper than the cold outside. Logan hadn't only started the process, he'd committed to it. A waitress approached with 2 mugs. "Thought you both might want coffee," she said, placing them down. "I used to volunteer at a senior unit. Saw a few families try stuff like that. It's awful." She headed back toward the counter, leaving me staring at the steam coiling upward. Knowing this wasn't some unique betrayal didn't make the blow easier, but it did make it real. My hand drifted toward the napkin holder, while my mind scrambled for another explanation. Maybe he panicked. Maybe he thought he was helping. Raymond shook his head. "That's exactly why this works. You want to believe the best. He counts on it." The words stung because they were true. Logan had always relied on my silence, on the way I let things slide for the sake of peace. He knew how far he could push without triggering a reaction. Raymond continued. "You know how many signs I ignored. My daughter started by offering to pay bills for me. Then she took over my mail. Eventually, she locked my accounts, convinced a doctor I couldn't manage medications. By the time I realized most of the paperwork had her name on it. The memory of Logan sorting my tax folder resurfaced. He'd insisted he needed it to make forms easier. Another time, he rummaged through the cabinet for my prescriptions without asking. A neighbor once mentioned Logan told her I was getting forgetful. I let that pass too. A vibration shook the temporary phone in my pocket. An email notification lit the screen, a security alert from my bank stating someone requested updated access credentials using my account. My chest tightened. He's using my email. Raymond reached across the table. "Let me see." After a quick review, he exhaled through his teeth. "This is part of the pattern. They try to lock you out digitally before the court even gets involved. Fighting the urge to bolt from the booth took everything I had." "I need to call him." "No," Raymond said firmly. "Confronting him now hands him leverage. He'll twist it. He'll play the dutiful son trying to manage his father's confusion. Emotion is how he wins." The diner hummed with low conversation forks, tapping plates, someone paying at the counter. All of it felt distant. My world had narrowed to a few inches of table between me and a truth I didn't want to face. Raymond dialed a number on his phone. "Morris, it's Ray. I've got someone who needs your help." "Tonight? Yes." He paused, listening. "We'll be there." He ended the call and slid the phone back. "We're meeting him later. He's one of the best. Let him look at everything before you take any step." My mind drifted again to things I'd brushed off over the last year. Logan taking control of minor tasks, asking questions about my insurance offering to keep a copy of my will just to make things easier. I had always chalked it up to him being responsible in his own way. The mug felt heavier when I lifted it. I raised him better than this. Raymond didn't offer comfort. You raised him. What he does with that is on him. A break in the steady rhythm of the diner pulled my eyes towards the front windows. A figure crossed from the parking lot toward the entrance, broad shoulders, same way of walking as Logan. The shape triggered something fast and sharp in my chest. Is that him? I whispered, unable to look away. Raymond followed my gaze but didn't answer. The figure paused near a parked truck, tugged at a jacket, then continued out of sight. My pulse took longer to settle. The coffee cooled in front of me. Raymond closed his laptop with a soft click, and something about the gesture made the tension thicken. We should go soon, he said. Morris will want time to look at everything. My attention drifted back to the window. The reflection showed two men sitting in a booth, one trying to make sense of the ground eroding beneath him, the other holding pieces of a road map I didn't know I needed. The figure outside was gone, but the unease lingered, stretching into the space between breaths. I pushed the mug aside and focused on the blurred shapes moving through the lot, waiting to see if the silhouette reappeared. The public library in Edina felt like neutral ground, no emotions tied to it, no history trailing behind us. Raymond asked for a small meeting room, and the staff handed him a key card. We slipped in, shut the door, and settled at a plain table. I opened the temporary phone and logged into my email. A new message sat at the top of the inbox, time-stamped just minutes earlier. The subject line froze me. Medical disclaimer. Walter Adams. A PDF attached. My thumb hovered, then tapped. A form filled the screen, stamped with a clinic letterhead I recognized. A doctor's name appeared under it, someone I'd seen once months ago. Below that sat a signature that looked almost right, but slightly crooked. The document stated in careful medical language that Walter Adams lacks the capacity to make financial decisions independently. My breath snagged. Logan hadn't just gathered evidence, he had manufactured it. Raymond leaned forward. Let me see. I handed him the phone. Watching his face as he scanned it rattled me more than the form itself. His jaw tightened. This is serious. He's going for an emergency order. I'm calling the police came out before I realized I'd spoken. He shook his head. Not yet. If you panic now, he'll say it was all a misunderstanding. He'll pull the papers before a judge sees them. Morris needs to look first. The room felt smaller for a moment. A thud of disbelief pushed through my chest as another realization surfaced. Logan accessed my account again. At some point, he must have reset the password or synced the login to his phone. How long has he been planning this? My voice sounded foreign, too strained. Raymond's expression softened. Long enough to feel confident. They always test boundaries before the main strike. A soft knock landed on the door before either of us could say more. A woman wearing a library badge stepped halfway in. Excuse me, she said. Someone out front asked if a room was being used by an older gentleman and a man in a wheelchair. He didn't give a name. Raymond and I exchanged a look. She left without pressing us. My pulse stumbled. Logan had to be the one asking. Nobody else knew we were here. He's following us, could be, Raymond muttered, or checking if his father is wandering with the wrong people. Either way, he's nervous. I rubbed my forehead, trying to steady the rush of thoughts. The distance between the man who helped me after knee surgery and the man who forged medical papers felt impossible to bridge. Each new piece made the gap wider. I don't understand him anymore, I admitted. Raymond's voice stayed even. Money and control reshape people. They tell themselves it's for safety, that they're protecting the family. They lie to themselves until the lies feel noble. The truth stung sharply. A dull ache spread across my ribs from holding everything in. The betrayal had grown massive, bigger than a bad decision, bigger than stress or fear. Logan wanted the whole wheel in his hands. "We need proof," Raymond continued. "Not emotions, not guesses. Something that shows he accessed accounts he had no business touching." The phone buzzed again. A second email arrived, another alert from the bank. Someone attempted to change security settings. My name stood at the top, but I knew it wasn't me. Raymond tapped the screen. "This helps. Shows a pattern of unauthorized attempts. Morris can use it." Before I could reply, the device vibrated a third time. A video call request appeared with the name Morris Hale. Raymond nodded for me to answer, so I accepted. A square face with trimmed gray hair filled the screen. Raymond. "Put the camera where I can see both of you." Raymond adjusted the angle. Morris's eyes focused immediately. "Walter, I've reviewed 2 court indicators already. There's a chance your son filed an emergency guardianship petition this morning. I need you both at my office within the next hour." My stomach tightened. The timeline was crumbling faster than expected. Morris added, "Don't confront anyone. Don't go home. Bring every device, email, and notification you have. I'll walk you through the rest when you get here." The call ended without a goodbye. Raymond set the phone on the table. "We should move." I didn't respond at first. The document on that screen, the fake signature, the calculated steps, it was all too deliberate, too practiced. 20 years of raising a child couldn't prepare a parent for something like this. A small part of me still hoped for a mistake. Something misinterpreted, a bad conversation blown out of proportion. That part shrank smaller with every new blow. Raymond reached for the door key. "Save the questions for Morris. Right now we focus on getting ahead of Logan." I nodded slowly. Not agreement, just motion. The kind you make when the world is shifted and you're trying not to stumble while finding your footing. The laptop clicked shut as I folded it under my arm. Raymond rolled toward the exit and I followed, catching my reflection in the glass wall at the end of the hall. Shoulders sagging, steps, uneven eyes trying to process too much at once. Your son sent a message to someone about a guardianship form and a decline in ability. Said he just needed one more piece of proof. It took a second to register. My hand went to the pocket of my gown. No phone, no wallet, only that 20. Earlier, Logan told the nurse I'd been misplacing things and forgetting where I put them. She had smiled politely, the kind of smile given to family who've been dealing with a long-term issue. A nurse stepped out from behind the counter. "Mr. Adams, do you have someone coming to pick you up?" "Yeah," I answered. "He got delayed." She nodded and returned to her paperwork. The man in the wheelchair angled closer with a small push of his hands. "Before you came out, he said your son asked the clerk for a sample certificate, stating a patient can't handle personal needs. I've seen that move before." My legs reacted before my mind did. They tried to take me toward the exit where Logan disappeared, but the strength wobbled. Morris Hale's office sat on the second floor of an older brick building in midway, plain hallway, muted carpet, nothing suggesting the kind of storms he handled for a living. Raymond led the way, wheels bumping lightly over a metal threshold before stopping at a frosted glass door that read, "Hale and Associates, Probate and Family Law." Morris greeted us with a short nod, no unnecessary warmth. "Come in." He motioned toward a round table stacked with binders. A laptop waited at the center. Once we settled, he opened the court access portal with quick, practiced movements. "There," he said, pointing at a line of text. "Petition filed this morning. Your son moved fast." Seeing Logan's name next to emergency guardianship request rattled something deep in my chest. Morris kept speaking, his tone firm. He submitted 3 main pieces. A medical statement claiming diminished capacity and email from your account, referencing confusion, and a personal affidavit saying you're unable to manage your finances. Hearing each item listed one after another felt like taking blows I couldn't block. Raymond shifted beside me, but Morris didn't slow. "Understand this?" he continued. "The court won't care about hurt feelings. Judges want facts. If you want to stop this, we need proof he fabricated documents." My throat tightened. I didn't know he'd go this far. Morris pushed a form toward me, pen clipped to the top. "This is your emergency objection. Sign it." But objections without evidence are just noise. Before I reached for the pen, the temporary phone buzzed. Logan's name flashed across the screen. Only it was my email account calling, not his number. My hand hovered. The urge to answer rose fast, almost instinctive. A lifetime of giving him the benefit of the doubt rushed forward. Morris held up a finger. "Don't," Raymond added. "He's not calling to apologize. He's trying to see how much you've figured out." The screen kept flashing. Logan's name carried a weight I didn't know how to hold anymore. When the call finally stopped, an empty ache settled in its place. Morris pulled out a legal pad. "Here's what we do next. Track every unauthorized login on your accounts. Screenshot alerts. I'll verify the doctor's signature. My guess is it won't match the clinic's files. We'll also need someone from the hospital who saw him request forms earlier. That woman at the reception desk might be enough." My hand drifted toward the edge of the table, grounding myself. He made me look helpless. "That's the play," Morris replied. "If the court believes you lack capacity, he gets temporary control of everything while they evaluate you. Not permanent, but long enough to cause damage." Raymond shifted in his chair. "We should tell him about the messages," Good Morris said. "Bring them all tonight." We stood to leave. The hallway outside felt narrower than before. As Morris locked the office door, something in the corner of my vision stirred. A figure leaned near the elevator, hands in his pockets, posture stiff. Logan. He wasn't rushing or hiding. He stood in full view, staring toward us with an expression crafted to look concerned. If a stranger saw him, they might think he was a devoted son waiting on news about his father. My knees almost gave way. The pressure of being watched, judged, misrepresented all at once, every part of it drained strength from my legs. Raymond noticed and murmured, "Don't react." That's what he wants. Logan didn't approach. He simply stepped aside as if making room for me to pass, offering a thin smile that tightened something in my stomach. A few people walked through the hallway, glancing between us without understanding the weight of that moment. Morris leaned in. Backstairs. Now. Raymond pivoted his chair and headed toward a door at the end of the hall. I followed, pulse hammering. Morris brought up the rear, making sure Logan didn't tail us. Down a narrow stairwell, we moved step by step. Raymond gripped the rail to steady himself. I supported part of his weight until we reached the first floor. A service exit opened to the parking lot. The cool air struck faster than expected, but it felt cleaner than anything in that hallway. Raymond guided his chair across the asphalt toward his van, and I climbed into the back seat while Morris spoke quietly to him about next steps. The door closed with a solid thud. My fingers tightened around the stack of documents Morris had given me. Papers rustled as the van's engine kicked on. 2 hours earlier, life had felt fragile but intact. Now everything leaned on two men I barely knew: Raymond, who saw danger before I did, and Morris, who spoke truths without sanding the edges. Raymond parked along the curb across from my house. The porch light glowed faintly, giving the place an unfamiliar stillness. Something about seeing my own front door unsettled me more than anything that had happened so far. Raymond angled his chair toward the walkway. "Let's make this quick. Check for anything moved or missing." The knob turned without resistance, not locked. A cold draft drifted past my shoulder as we stepped in. Papers lay scattered near the entryway. The cabinet I kept for tax records hung open folders bent at awkward angles. Someone had rushed through here. Raymond took in the mess with a single sweep of his eyes. Logan was here. My knees tightened. Losing control of your own home delivers a wound that's hard to describe. The space that's supposed to hold your history suddenly feels invaded, stripped of safety. A whir from the hallway office drew my attention. The printer sat on the counter, still warm. A sheet of paper waited in the tray. Raymond rolled over and lifted it carefully. He studied the page, then extended it toward me. You need to see this. The signature leapt out instantly. Same doctor's name, same shaky imitation of handwriting, same style as the forged medical disclaimer attached to the email earlier. Only this version looked like a draft ink smudged alignment off. My fingertips brushed the corner. A tremor worked through my hand. He practiced signing a doctor's name. In my house. The thought lodged deep, hollowing something out. A different kind of pain rose in my throat. Footsteps creaked behind us. Logan emerged from the hallway holding a stack of envelopes, acting startled. Dad, you're home already? He lifted the mail like a peace offering. I was just sorting bills, trying to help. His tone didn't shake. His face didn't flush with guilt. He played his role convincingly, maybe too convincingly. I stayed still. Saying anything risked giving him ground. He tried again, voice softening. You shouldn't be wandering around after a procedure. You scared me this morning. The nurse said you seemed confused. Raymond remained behind me, silent, watching. Logan's expression shifted when he noticed Raymond. Who's this? Why are you letting strangers drag you around? You know this isn't safe for you. The words felt rehearsed, like lines written to sell a story to someone else. My jaw locked. Logan mistook the silence for weakness. He stepped closer. Dad, you've been ignoring your health for months. I'm trying to take care of you. You don't always understand what's best anymore. The sentence landed harder than anything else he'd said that day. That wasn't concern. That was preparation laying out the narrative he planned to feed the court. Stop, Raymond, finally said. Enough. Logan didn't turn toward him. This is family business. You don't know what's going on. Raymond didn't budge. I know exactly what you're doing. Something in Logan's face flickered annoyance, maybe fear. Then he relaxed the muscles around his mouth, shifting back into his practiced mask. I'll come back later, he said, gathering the envelopes. We can talk when you're calmer, Dad. He moved past us without waiting for a response. The front door shut, leaving the house strangely hollow. Raymond let out a slow breath. He's tightening the noose. But he made a mistake. He moved toward the computer. Let's check your sent folder. The screen lit up, and there it was, an email from my account, time-stamped an hour earlier, containing the forged medical document, sent directly to the probate court's address. Only I hadn't sent anything. Raymond leaned back. He used your machine. Probably thought you'd stay at the hospital long enough for him to clean everything up. A faint spark of hope surfaced, something to hold on to. That draft in the printer, the email trail, the unlocked door, they weren't just signs of invasion. They were evidence. The feeling lasted maybe 10 seconds. A notification pinged on the screen. My bank flagged an unusual withdrawal. Someone had transferred $3,000 out of my checking account using the online portal. I forced myself to look. The transaction was logged under my name, done earlier in the afternoon. Raymond read over my shoulder. He's accelerating. The tiny spark flickered out. A wave of exhaustion rolled through my chest. Losing money hurt, but not as much as realizing Logan had crossed into territory where no apology could reach. Raymond touched my arm. We can use this. Unauthorized access. Fraud. It helps the case. It feels like he's already one escaped before I could stop it. No, not yet. But this won't be enough for the judge. We need one more piece, something that shows intent beyond incompetence. The clock on the stove blinked 9:17 p.m. Tomorrow morning the objection would be filed, but tonight wasn't over. Not from the doctor's visit, nothing serious had happened in that room. The weakness came from the realization that my own son planned something behind my back. A gentle but firm hand caught my forearm. "Don't chase him," the man said. "Do that, and you hand him what he wants. He needs you to look confused." I pulled in a slow breath. Why would he even try something like this? He raised an eyebrow as if he'd heard that same question 100 times. "Sit down a moment. I'll tell you what I heard, and why you should pay attention." The bench creaked when I lowered myself again. My thoughts ran ahead of me, none in a straight line. The man looked as if he'd traveled this road before. Older, steady eyes, too familiar with disappointment. He offered his name. Raymond Cole. I nodded, not ready to give mine back. He leaned just enough to see the doors where Logan had left. "You're being targeted," he said. And I know the pattern. Every passing minute seemed to widen the gap between who my son used to be and who he had become. Raymond gathered the printed pages into a folder. "We're leaving. Don't sleep here." I grabbed my coat from the chair, still caught between anger and disbelief. As we stepped onto the porch, headlights flicked on 2 houses down. A car sat there, engine running. The silhouette behind the wheel leaned slightly forward as if tracking our movement. Raymond noticed too. He's monitoring the place. Hennepin County Court opened its doors at 7:30. The atrium filled with the low shuffle of people moving toward their hearings, but nothing felt distant enough to soften what waited for us upstairs. Raymond rolled ahead. Morris walked with clipped steps, and I followed with a heaviness that settled deeper the closer we got to the probate courtroom. Morris headed straight to the clerk's counter and handed over a folder. PDF with the forged signature draft pulled from the printer at the residence and the email logs. His tone carried no hesitation. The clerk took the documents and disappeared through a doorway. We sat on a row of rigid chairs. Not 5 minutes passed before Logan appeared at the end of the corridor. His shoulders were squared, his stride easy. A young woman clung to his arm, his girlfriend. Behind them stood a social worker I'd never seen. Logan slowed as he approached, arranging his expression into something sympathetic. "Dad," he said softly, "you didn't have to come this early. We could have handled this together." Morris didn't bother hiding his disdain. Raymond kept his gaze fixed forward. Logan looked toward the social worker. "This is the situation I told you about. My father's been getting confused, wandering, forgetting how to log into basic things." He turned back to me. "You lost your phone 3 times this month. And your wallet. Remember?" No one answered him. The corridor's hum grew heavier around us. A court officer called us in. The room was narrower than I expected. A judge sat elevated at the far end, stacks of motions to one side. Once everyone settled, she opened the session. Morris stood first. "Your Honor, we have strong evidence the petitioner has fabricated medical documents and gained unauthorized access to my client's accounts." Logan stepped forward before she could respond. "My father has been manipulated by people who don't know him. I'm doing everything I can to keep him safe. Any papers he's referring to are sample forms from the clinic, nothing more." Morris raised an eyebrow. "Sample forms produced by a printer in the respondent's home, with a doctor's signature that doesn't match clinic records." The judge directed her attention toward me. "Mr. Adams, do you understand the nature of today's hearing? Do you feel capable of managing your financial affairs?" Questions piled onto each other. My health history. Whether I remembered conversations, if I'd misplaced important documents, whether I lived alone by choice or necessity. Every answer forced me to feel smaller, chipped down to whatever weaknesses Logan chose to highlight. A tight pressure built behind my sternum. The judge's expression remained neutral, but the process felt like standing on uneven ground while someone tried to shake it loose. Morris requested permission to submit digital evidence. The judge nodded. An IT staffer wheeled over a small workstation. Morris handed him a drive. "Pull the email logs." The screen flickered as folders loaded. One panel displayed my account's activity. Another showed Logan synchronized automatically through a connected device. Raymond leaned slightly toward me. He forgot to turn off backup sync. A line of messages appeared, outgoing emails containing forged PDF attachments, all backed up to Logan's personal account without him realizing it. The room shifted. Logan stepped forward abruptly. "That's a mistake. I must have signed into the wrong profile. Anyone could mix up accounts." The judge watched him with a long, measured stare. Morris spoke again. "Your Honor, the respondent never sent those files. The petitioner did, using his father's equipment, then backed them up to his own cloud." Logan's girlfriend lowered her gaze. The social worker took a step back from him. The judge requested a 15-minute recess. Everyone filed out except the clerk and 2 officers. The hallway felt colder than the courthouse lobby. I sank into a bench, not trusting my legs. Raymond positioned his chair a few inches away. "You're at the line, Walter. Don't fold now." I stared at the floor tiles. He was supposed to take care of me someday, not bury me alive on paper. "No one wins by stepping aside," he said. "Not in cases like this." The recess ended. We went back in. Morris approached the judge with new evidence. "We have a security recording from Abbott Northwestern Hospital. It shows the petitioner collecting medical assessment forms without authorization." The judge reviewed the footage. Logan's image appeared, pulling packets from the counter, sliding them under his arm, glancing over his shoulder. Something in his posture betrayed him. Not guilt, but strategy. Even the courtroom felt it. Silence followed. No argument came from his side, no excuse, no manufactured concern. The judge folded her hands. "Everyone rise," she said. "The court is prepared to issue a ruling." The judge delivered the ruling with a firm, measured tone. Logan's petition was denied in full. She ordered the case forwarded to the state investigators for possible charges: document forgery, elder exploitation, unlawful access to protected accounts. A deputy stepped toward Logan before the judge even finished speaking. Metal cuffs clicked around his wrists. The sound cut through the courtroom harder than any shouted accusation. His girlfriend backed away from the deputy's shoulders, folding inward. She didn't try to defend him, didn't step close, didn't ask where they were taking him. The social worker who'd come with them stared at the floor, shifting her weight, as if wishing she'd never agreed to appear. Logan looked over at me, once expression flickering between shock and something darker, maybe resentment, maybe disbelief that his version of the story hadn't held. My gaze didn't meet his. Not out of anger. Something deeper had settled, a final acceptance that there was nothing left to salvage. Morris gathered the folders. "I'll keep tracking the investigation," he said, lowering his voice. "They'll reach out to you for statements. You won't face this alone." Raymond steadied his hands on his wheels. "Told you this path wasn't hopeless." Then he added quieter. "Today, nobody wins. Truth just lands where it should." We made our way through the corridor. The courthouse hum felt different now. Quieter in my head, not in the space around us. Morris peeled off toward the clerk's office. Raymond waited for me near the elevators, giving me a moment before we stepped out into the morning. Minneapolis air hit cooler than earlier. It helped clear the sting left behind by the hearing. Part of me wanted to sit on a bench until the world stopped shifting, but life rarely gives time for that. Raymond guided his chair toward the parking garage, and I followed. The drive back took us past streets I'd known for decades. Hardware stores, old rental houses, the corner lot where Logan learned to ride a bike. Memories came without invitation, rising and settling again, as if testing their weight. None carried the same meaning they used to. At home, the first thing I did was lock every account I had. New passwords, two-factor authentication, phone carrier reset. The process took nearly an hour, but each completed step steadied me. My house felt different too. Not healed, but reclaimed. Raymond waited near the doorway while I gathered scattered mail, closed the cabinet drawers, and stacked the papers that mattered. "You're not the same man who walked out of that hospital yesterday," he said. Good. The next few days fell into a new rhythm. I sorted through damaged trust and unfinished chores, swept the porch, called the bank, logged conversations for the investigator. Life didn't snap back. It eased forward one task at a time. A week later, my doctor cleared me for a knee rehab class near Bidemakaska. I'd postponed it for months. Always excuses, schedules, weather helping Logan. Walking into that first session felt like stepping into a room where nothing from the past had authority anymore. The exercises weren't elegant, slow lunges, carefully guided stretches, but every repetition grounded me in my own body again. The instructor reminded me to move at my own pace. I stayed after class longer than planned, sitting on a bench near the path while cyclists and joggers passed by. One afternoon, the phone rang. Raymond. "You up for a loop around the lake?" he asked. "They've got mobility scooters you can rent. I figured we might try one." The offer pulled a small, unfamiliar smile from me. "Yeah, let's go." We met near the rental stand. He chose a scooter with a wide base, and I took one beside him. The motors hummed as we merged onto the path. Families walked dogs, kids tossed pebbles near the water's edge, and the world felt bigger than anything that had happened in court. Raymond drove slightly ahead, letting me find my rhythm. "Told you," he called back. "Life doesn't end just because someone else tries to hijack it." The back door of the hospital swung open with a heavy push, and the cold brushed against my skin, clearing the fog that had followed me since Logan walked off. Raymond kept a steady pace beside me, guiding his chair over the cracked pavement of the rear lot. My daughter tried the same thing he said, filed to take control of everything after her mother passed, claimed I was slipping, claimed I couldn't manage day-to-day life. The story hit harder than the wind. A nurse had lent me a temporary phone, so I tried calling Logan again. The call rang once, then cut off. A message popped up seen. Nothing more. Raymond slowed enough to glance at me. "That's how it starts. They block your access, grab the narrative, then move fast. Minnesota courts don't need much to approve an emergency guardianship. If someone can argue you can't manage your own decisions, the judge can hand control to a relative until everything's sorted." A knot settled in my stomach. "Feels different now," I answered, navigating a curve. "Lighter." He nodded without turning. That's what getting your life back does. Doesn't erase the damage, just gives you the wheel again. We kept moving along the shoreline. The lake shifted colors with each passing cloud, and the path widened near a cluster of trees. Something eased in my chest that hadn't loosened in years. Not triumph, not relief, just a steadying acceptance. My thoughts drifted toward Logan again. Not in grief, not in yearning, but with a slow, sober distance. Whatever connection we once had lived behind me, now shaped by choices neither of us could undo. He would face the consequences set in motion by his own hands, and I wouldn't intervene. The scooters rolled side by side as we continued down the curve of the trail. Raymond pointed toward a stretch ahead. "Let's take that route. It's smoother." I followed, letting the motion carry me forward, letting the path unfold without forcing meaning onto every step. The lake stayed to my left. Raymond stayed to my right. and the rest, everything that once felt too heavy to hold, fell a little further behind with each turn. Not from fear, something closer to disbelief, mixing with anger. Logan had been helpful these last months, asking to hold on to my house keys, when we ran errands suggesting he manage my bank card when my knee surgery made moving around tougher. At the time, it felt considerate. Now those memories rearranged themselves into something else. Raymond pointed toward my empty pockets. If he walked off with your phone and wallet, he's preparing paperwork right now, probably already filed. A reflex pushed me toward the hospital door again. I'll talk to the staff. I'll explain. A firm gesture stopped me. Don't. Running back in gives him proof you're confused and panicked. Sit down for a moment. He rolled toward a low retaining wall, where cars idled in the distance. My legs carried me over without argument. Settling on the cold concrete steadied the rush of thoughts. Why help me? The question escaped before I could think it through. Raymond rested his hands on the wheels. When my wife died, I trusted my daughter with too much. She took advantage of that grief, tried locking me out of my accounts, called her lawyer before she called me. I fought back, got my independence returned. It took months, but I learned what to watch for. He paused to let the weight settle. I saw the signs the minute your son tossed those $20 your way. Nothing about this felt like a misunderstanding anymore. The pattern was too specific, too calculated. A familiar ache spread across my ribs as more pieces clicked, Logan suggesting I write down passwords just in case, Logan sorting my mail to help me get organized, Logan cleaning out drawers without asking. A dark SUV rolled past us toward the exit. Something made me stare. Logan sat in the passenger seat. He scrolled through his phone, expression flat, focused. He didn't scan the lot, didn't check for me, didn't even look up. In his mind, I was still sitting on that bench inside the hospital waiting for someone to rescue me. Raymond let out a small breath. See that he assumes you're out of the way, believes he's already in control. The SUV turned onto the street, disappearing in a rush of tires. That simple glimpse removed any doubts left in my chest. Where do I even start? My voice felt thin. With the right attorney, Raymond replied. There's a man named Morris Hale. Handles guardianship abuse cases all over Minnesota. He's good. Brutally straightforward, but good. The name didn't ring any bells, but Raymond delivered it with the confidence of someone who had lived through the fire and walked out the other side. Does this mean Logan planned all of it? The words tasted bitter. Raymond rubbed his jaw. People don't wake up one morning and decide to do something like this. They prepare. They test small boundaries. They push until the ground softens. The cold felt sharper the longer we sat there. Something about watching that SUV fade into morning traffic made the truth sink in deeper than anything else so far. Logan didn't look nervous or guilty. He looked busy, focused on his next step. Not on me. A long breath steadied my chest. I'm not going home. That's smart, Raymond said. Going home without knowing what he's done could make things worse. He might even twist it into abandonment or confusion. His matter-of-fact tone gave me something to grip onto. Not comfort, but a sense of direction. A car pulled up near us, engine running. Raymond checked his watch. There's a diner near Bloomington where we can talk more. The kind of place where nobody pays attention to two men minding their business. I stood slowly. My knees protested, but the movement helped settle the swirl in my head. Raymond adjusted his chair and nodded toward the far end of the lot. Come on, he said. You need a plan, not hope. The pavement stretched ahead of us, uneven and cold. A few steps in, I glanced back at the hospital where Logan left me 15 minutes earlier, as if I were a burden he didn't know what to do with. The door swung shut behind a couple leaving with discharge papers. The diner felt worn, in the way old boots feel worn, still holding together, still doing their job. Raymond steered his chair to the corner booth, the one farthest from the entrance. I slid into the seat opposite him, my mind still chasing the sight of Logan in that SUV. Raymond lifted his laptop onto the table and tapped the screen awake. Let me show you what these cases usually look like. Forms filled the display: guardianship petitions, medical assessments, emergency requests. Some had scribbled signatures that didn't match the printed names. Others exaggerated illnesses so severely that any healthy man would look unfit. He wouldn't go this far slipped out before I could rein in the thought. Raymond didn't argue.